Now, Professor Bhattacharya will kindly deliver his presidential speech.
Revered Vice Chancellor, esteemed Secretary of our institution, revered monks of the Ramakrishna Order, Mr. Paul, and members of the family who are with us, and Mr. Majumdar. It has been a very great pleasure to be here today with you on this occasion, which I gather is the 22nd Surendra Paul lecture. And it was an amazing performance, an amazing lecture that we saw, because here is a man who did his PhD in physics, in particle physics at that. He took his degree, his PhD in Madras University many years ago in theoretical physics. And you can see that, you can perceive that deep knowledge of physics imbues his interpretation of the idea of plurality and manyness of reality. And I also have always admired the ability of the speaker today to combine his academic work with administration in universities. As you know, he taught physics for about 25 years, I think, and he was principal of the mission school in Belur for about 2 decades. And nevertheless, his interest in academic matters did not ebb, and some evidence of that was seen by us, was heard by us today. And the special thing that I do admire is the effort this highly erudite speaker today made to make things simple to us, to illustrate the points he made with everyday examples, and to tell us jokes which would throw light on the subject of his speech. What I heard today made me reflect upon what I recall of Swami Vivekananda's own thoughts about this notion of plurality and its supposed contraposition with unity. And as far as I recall, Swami Vivekananda speaks on this subject in 3 contexts in particular. One is an epistemological position he has taken a number of times, but particularly with great clarity in Prakcho Upaschatto, later translated as East and the West, which you would find in the collected works of Swami Vivekananda, Volume 5, where Swamiji says that knowledge is search for unity. And it is this search for knowledge about nature which leads to the formation of our human notions of laws of nature. And thus Swamiji says in this passage in particular, and he has about a couple of pages on it, he says that the search for unity is innate in human mind. When he observes the variousness of the universe, the mind searches for some unifying principle, and these are the laws of science that we have, that man has developed. And if you look at what the Vice Chancellor told us today, if you think of, he did not talk very much about the Newtonian physics, but if you think of from Newton onwards, the effort to establish the theory of everything, as he put it, the effort to establish one final answer to the explanation, a unified explanation of the variousness of the universe. Or if you look at in botany, Linnaeus and his classification scheme, if you think of Darwin, his evolution of species theory, and of course, if you look at, about 3 years after Swamiji's death, the first paper on the theory of relativity was published by Einstein, and I think about more than a decade later, the general theory came out. If you look at that theory of relativity that came after Swamiji, you see this, what Swamiji was driving at. Vivekananda was talking of a unity that has always been the effort of science to establish in the diverseness of reality, apparent reality, the reality that appears to our perceptions, to our senses. The second dimension which Swami Vivekananda addressed oftener was in the social dimension. And here I must say that there is one thing I missed in our Vice Chancellor's learned exposition. Swamiji had said a great deal about the unity between religions, between religious communities. And this was particularly important in the Indian context, where his statement that religion unites India appeared to be a paradox, because everyone knows that religion divided India, even in his times, in the late 19th century. I'm particularly thinking of Swamiji's speech in 1893, several speeches in the Chicago Congress of 1893, where he said that religion unites India. And then he explained, he said that by religion here I do not mean Hinduism or Christianity or Islam. I mean that essential religion which all mankind shares. And here, of course, he was deeply influenced by Paramahansa's teachings. Joto Mot, Toto Pot were the words which Swami Vivekananda often quoted. And in this sense, he thought that the religious experience of mankind was ultimately driving towards a unity of all religions, and great minds like the Paramahansa, Ramakrishnaji, could perceive it. And it was, he thought, a message that he must bring to the Parliament of Religions, and in fact he persisted in spreading this message throughout his life. And I think this aspect of Swamiji's mission is very important in our own days. And you must, of course, infer from what I have said that therefore Swamiji believed in what we call today religious pluralism. In fact, the Vice Chancellor himself belongs to a very important association which promotes religious pluralism. He's been to Harvard, to that foundation which promotes pluralist studies in religion. That means, as he said, while in physics you have many theories coexisting, many religions also are equally true paths to God. And the third sense in which I have seen Vivekananda very often talking of the supposed opposition between pluralism and unity is Swamiji's reference to the Vedantic Advaitavad. I recall Suparanandaji wrote a very interesting introduction to one volume I edited for Ramakrishna Mission Institute of Culture, where he cites from Gita the passage where the words Avibhaktam Bhakteshu occurs. And Swami Vivekananda, in his message of non-dualism, as you know, this was the essence of his teaching with the Vedantic message, uses the term unity with a different dimension, a spiritual dimension, which indeed our speaker today has also mentioned. I think that it is I, for one, have gained many new insights into my own readings of Swami Vivekananda's writings, because the speech today sends a shaft of light into many aspects of thoughts on plurality and unity. And therefore, I'm sure that I speak for the house, for everyone present here, when I say that we owe to Swami Atmapriyanandaji a huge measure of thanks, and the organizers of this lecture, Swami Suparanandaji and his team, and to them we owe thanks as well. And finally, of course, in conclusion, I would refer once again to what our Secretary Maharaj mentioned already. The donor family, represented today ably by Mr. Karan Paul, are to be thanked for arranging such a wonderful series of lectures. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Bhattacharya. With your permission, this wonderful evening comes to an end with a vote of thanks to be proposed by Mr. Swaraj Majumdar, Associate Editor of the Bulletin of Ramakrishna Mission Institute of Culture. Sri Majumdar.
Revered Swami Suparanandaji Maharaj, Revered Swami Atmapriyanandaji Maharaj, Honorable former Vice Chancellor Mr. Bhattacharya, monks, brahmacharis present here, and also Mr. Karan Paul, friends. All the delicious dishes have already been served. And now it's for me to serve a dessert. Well, blessed is the person who can say the truth sweetly and who can say goodness and virtues in others. This faculty gives us rest and peace, while it inspires others to become nobler and inspires others to do nobler deeds. Hence, one is indeed fortunate who enjoys the privilege of offering thanks to those who deserve them. A Welsh proverb says that three things for which thanks are due are: number one, invitation; two, a gift; and three, a warning. So first I offer my personal thanks to the Institute of Culture for inviting me to propose a vote of thanks. In the second place comes the gift. That is to say, the financial support the Paul family has so far provided to the Institute for organizing this impressive Surendra Pal Memorial Lecture. Every year, the association of the Paul family with the Institute is quite old. I should say since Swami Lokesharananda's times. And the relationship is very sweet and strong, and it is growing stronger every year. We used to see earlier at this function Sri Jit Palji, Sir Swaraj Pal, and other members of the family. But time has snatched some of them from our sight. I see now only possibly Mr. Kiran Pal, or maybe some members of his family. I don't personally know. They are there, of course. And I personally thank Kiran Pal, Mr. Kiran Pal, the enthusiastic steward of the APJ Surendra Group, and his family members here. On behalf of the Institute, I offer these thanks, and I offer them sincere thanks and gratitude for what they have done so far for the Institute. I wish them also a happy and prosperous English New Year as well. Finally, the warning. If I'm allowed to say, I think it is the highest gift, because the gift that Swami Priyanandaji has given us, because the gift of spiritual knowledge saves us from many a birth, and saves us from many problems which the world is beset with. Swami Priyanandaji Maharaj, who is a much sought after speaker and writer, monk and scholar these days, in his inspiring discourse has handed over this gift in the form of a warning. What is that warning? He has taken up this Advaitic subject of plurality and unity and discussed it from 4 dimensions, namely philosophical dimension, scientific dimension, psychological dimension, and social dimension. But at the close of his lecture, he said that all quarrels will cease when we come to understand this very truth, that all perceptions are true, but not absolutely true. This is the core lesson, core warning. We don't remember this truth, hence so many problems at all levels arise. So we must remember this warning, and that is the third gift according to the Welsh proverb. And you know, in Indian parlance, spiritual gift is the highest gift. All gifts are important. Saving a life is important. Helping a person is important. Educating somebody's aparavidya, giving aparavidya is also important. But the highest gift is spiritual knowledge, because that saves us from many births. Again and again we are dying, again and again we are taking our bath. This cycle must stop. So we must remember this warning. So I also thank him very much, profoundly. I thank him for this warning, which is the essence of Ramakrishna Vedanta. Because Swamiji said, as you know, ignorance is manifold or plurality, while knowledge realizes the one. Manifold is, as Swami Vivekananda says, is like a dream. It doesn't destroy the unity. The millions of waves don't destroy the unity of the ocean. The ocean remains all the same, the ocean. However, the manifold is not valueless, as Swami Atma Priyanandaji has nicely pointed out. It is not valueless. It is through the many or plurality that we reach the one or unity. Once again, we offer our thanks to the Swami for his brilliant and lively exposition. We also thank Professor Sabyasachi Bhattacharya, an eminent historian and former Vice Chancellor of Vishwabharati University, who has kindly agreed to preside over the function, and for his valuable comments. You know, the ship is visible, but the anchor is not visible. We see the ship, but the anchor is not visible. So here the anchor is not on its dash. I also thank Mr. Shakti Prasad Mishra, who conducted this function here. So I also thank him profusely. But last but not least, I thank all of you who have attended the Surendra Pal Memorial Lecture. Your graceful presence has certainly pepped us up. Once again, I thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Majumdar. May we request you, the honored